Okay, so in this short video, we're going to explore the ideas of income and substitution effects. So understanding income and substitution effects is essential if you're going to have a complete understanding of consumer theory, indifference curve analysis, and budget line analysis. Okay, so what is the income effect? Well, we know that when prices change, your real income also changes. So if we look at this example here, we can see that the price of X has fallen. Okay, the price of X is falling. That's represented by this pivoting of the budget line. So of course, the gradient of the budget line changes, which means that the relative price of X compared to Y has fallen. But the other thing to notice is that your consumption possibilities expand in both directions. So it becomes possible to buy more units of Y, even though X is the thing that has become relatively cheaper. So in this sense, you are richer in real terms, assuming your nominal income is unchanged when X becomes relatively cheaper. Okay, so that captures the idea of an income effect. How would you respond to that change in your purchasing power? That's the income effect. What about the substitution effect? Well, we're going to try and examine the impact of the changes in relative price taken by themselves. So we're going to try and separate the change in relative price and the change in your purchasing power. So here, X is becoming relatively cheaper. That, of course, is likely to lead us to consume more units of X and less units of Y, substituting more X for less Y. But we need to show that without mixing it up with the income effect. And then, when we take those two effects together, the total effect of a price change is the combination of the income and the substitution effect. So straight away in this diagram, we can see what the total effect is. Okay, the total effect, let me just line these up. The total effect here is going to be A to B. Okay. So the price of X is falling. The result is that I consume initially at point A, maximize our utility there, and then I move to point B. Okay? So, what's the income effect? What's the substitution effect? Well, let's think about it in terms of this idea of ceteris paribus. So we want to change the relative prices, but keep your purchasing power the same. Well, the gradient of budget line 2 reflects the new relative prices following the fall in the price of X. So what we're going to do is we're going to move budget line 2 inwards until a utility maximizing consumer would maximize their utility by choosing a combination which lies on indifference curve 1. So let's put a point here like this. Let's draw a line which is parallel to the new budget line, okay? And let's think about what that means, right? So effectively, what we are doing is, let's call this A dash. We are presenting the consumer with the new relative prices, which is reflected by the gradient of this line, but we've actually taken away some of their money, some of their nominal income, in order to preserve their purchasing power, which is evidenced by the fact that they are only able to buy the same amount of utility that they had initially. Okay? So this movement, A to A dash, is our substitution effect, and then what you can imagine is giving the consumer the money back that we took away, and that would create this income effect, right? A dash to B. So here, if we break it down, A to A dash is our substitution effect, and A dash to B is our income effect, and we put them together. A to B is our price effect or total effect. Okay? So notice in this example, I'm assuming that both goods X and Y are normal. What does that mean? Well, it must be the case that the income effect is going to be positive for both goods. So the way you can see that is that the movement here, A dash to B, is representing or showing an increase in consumption of both good X and good Y as a result of this positive income effect. The substitution effect on good X is positive, right? When the price of X goes down, you substitute towards X because it's relatively cheaper. But of course, the substitution effect on Y is negative because X becoming relatively cheaper is the same thing as Y becoming relatively more expensive. Okay, so what I suggest you do is you try and recreate this diagram for yourself and crucially explore different situations relating to whether or not X and Y are both normal, whether or not one is normal, one is inferior, and so on, because that will give you a different analysis each time. But keep the basic structure of your analysis the same in terms of breaking down the total effect or the price effect into substitution effects and income effects. And really try and understand the intuition behind what we are doing when we say that A to A dash is the substitution effect. It all hinges on this proper understanding of what we mean by ceteris paribus. Okay? That's going to be crucial if you're going to be able to write reasonable essays about this topic. Okay?